Right now, somebody is about to hand a dealer $18,000 for a diesel truck that will need a new engine before the loan is paid off. 2 rows over on that same lot sits a diesel that will hit 500,000 miles on nothing but oil changes and fuel filters, priced about the same. The difference between those 2 trucks is not the brand on the tailgate. It is the engine under the hood and the 3 letters or numbers that come after it. I have been working on diesel trucks for over 20 years. I have rebuilt the ones that quit, and I have serviced the ones that refuse to die. Today, I am counting down the 5 diesel trucks that will genuinely last forever, and then I am calling out the 3 that will drain your bank account faster than a boat. I am going deepest on number 1 because that truck has earned a reputation that no marketing budget could buy. Let's get into it. Bankrupt truck number 3, 2016 to 2019 Nissan Titan XD with a 5.0-liter Cummins V8. This is the truck that should have worked. You see Cummins on the fender and your brain says reliable. I get it. Cummins makes legendary engines. But the 5.0-liter V8 they put in the Titan XD is not the legendary inline 6 you are thinking of. It is a completely different engine that was originally designed for the Ram 1500, rejected by Ram over fuel economy concerns, and then handed to Nissan. The result was a diesel that sat in no man's land, too heavy for a half-ton and too weak for a real 3/4 ton, making only 310 horsepower and 555 pound-feet of torque. I had a customer bring one in, a 2017 truck with 68,000 miles. The check engine light had been on for 3 weeks, the EGR valve was stuck, the turbo actuator was failing, and the fuel pump was showing signs of contamination damage. Total estimate, $6,200. He almost fell off the chair. The worst part was not the bill. It was that the Nissan dealer told him they did not have a certified diesel technician on staff, and the parts were on back order for 6 weeks. Nissan discontinued the Cummins option after 2019 because of poor sales and persistent reliability complaints. Turbocharger failures, EGR cooler cracks, DEF system malfunctions, and fuel pump failures well before 100,000 miles were all common. NHTSA even investigated crankshaft failures in these trucks. If you see a Titan XD diesel for $18,000 and think you are getting a deal because it says Cummins on it, walk away. That badge does not mean what you think it means on this truck. Bankrupt truck number 2, from 2008 to 2010, Ford Super Duty with a 6.4-liter Power Stroke. The 6.4 was supposed to fix everything the 6.0 broke. It did not. Ford and Navistar built this engine with compound turbochargers and a new diesel particulate filter system, and almost every one of those new components became a failure point. The diesel particulate filter clogs constantly and triggers a regeneration cycle that injects raw diesel fuel into the exhaust stream to burn off soot. The problem is that not all of that fuel burns. Some of it washes past the piston rings and dilutes your engine oil. I have drained oil out of 6.4-liter Power Strokes and found an extra gallon and a half of diesel mixed in. That is not oil at that point, that is a ticking bomb. Radiators leak because of a poor crimp design on the plastic end tanks. The pistons crack around the fuel bowl. The up pipes develop cracks that rob you of power and coat your firewall in soot. And here is the detail that kills me. To do most major repairs on the 6.4, you have to pull the cab off the frame. That is not a figure of speech. The cab literally has to come off to access the engine. That turns a $2,000 repair into a $5,000 repair just in labor. If you are looking at a stock 6.4 Power Stroke, budget $8,000 to $12,000 for the repairs that are coming. The 2008 model year is the worst of the bunch. The 6.4 was so problematic that it ended the 30-year partnership between Ford and Navistar entirely. Ford designed the next Power Stroke completely in-house. That should tell you everything. Bankrupt truck number 1, the Ford Super Duty with the 6.0-liter Power Stroke from 2003 to 2007. If you have spent 5 minutes in a diesel forum, you already know about the 6.0-liter Power Stroke. This is the engine that turned bulletproofing into a verb. The 6.0-liter replaced the beloved 7.3-liter Power Stroke and immediately became one of the most controversial diesel engines ever put in a pickup truck. The problems are well documented. The oil cooler sits inside the engine block and clogs with debris over time, restricting coolant flow. When the oil cooler fails, it starves the EGR cooler of coolant, and the EGR cooler ruptures, dumping coolant into the intake manifold. The high-pressure oil pump uses gears that develop stress cracks and shatter. The cylinder heads are held down by only 4 bolts per cylinder, instead of the 6 that the 7.3-liter before it and the 6.7-liter after it both use. Under any kind of boost, those head bolts stretch and you get blown head gaskets. I had a buddy buy a clean-looking 2005 F-250 with 112,000 miles for $14,000. Within 18 months, he had spent $9,400 on an EGR cooler, head gaskets, and an oil cooler replacement. He ended up selling the truck at a loss. That story is not unusual, it is average. Can you bulletproof a 6.0 and make it reliable? Yes, but a proper bulletproof job runs $6,000 to $13,000 at a shop. At that point, you have to ask yourself whether spending $20,000 or more total on a 6.0 makes sense when you could buy a truck with a better engine for the same money. If you are shopping for a used diesel and the seller says it just needs to be bulletproofed, that is code for "I am selling you my problem." Run. All right, those are the 3 diesel trucks that will empty your wallet. Now let's talk about the 5 that will run until your grandkids learn to drive. Number 5, from 2015 onward, the Ford Super Duty with the 6.7-liter Power Stroke. After the disaster of the 6.0 and 6.4, Ford went back to the drawing board and designed the 6.7-liter Power Stroke completely in-house starting in 2011. The first generation from 2011 to 2014 had some growing pains, mainly with the turbocharger and the fuel system. By 2015, Ford had sorted out the major issues. It uses a compacted graphite iron block that is about 25% stronger than conventional cast iron. The cylinder heads are held down by 6 bolts per cylinder, finally matching the 7.3 Power Stroke's design philosophy. Power has climbed steadily, with current models making up to 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. A 2017 F-350 rolled into my shop last year with 287,000 miles. Original engine, original transmission. The owner was a hotshot hauler, running coast to coast with heavy equipment trailers. I changed his oil, replaced a coolant hose, and sent him on his way. That kind of durability under that kind of abuse is not luck. It is engineering. The weak point on 2011 to 2019 models is the CP 4.2 high-pressure fuel pump. If it fails, it sends metal shavings through the entire fuel system, and you are looking at $8,000 to $12,000 in damage. Use quality diesel, change your fuel filters religiously, and consider a fuel additive. The 2020 and newer models switch to an improved pump design. If you are shopping used, look for a 2017 or newer truck with documented maintenance history. Those trucks are regularly pushing past 300,000 miles. Number 4, 2003 to 2007 Dodge Ram 2500 with a 5.9-liter 24-valve Cummins, built to last. The Common Rail 5.9 is the refined version of the engine that started it all. When Cummins switched from the mechanical injection of the 12-valve to the electronic Common Rail system in 2003, they kept the same indestructible iron block and added precise fuel metering that improved power, fuel economy, and cold starts. The result was 325 horsepower and 610 pound-feet of torque in a package that could run for decades. I serviced a 2006 Ram 2500 last year with 412,000 miles on the original engine. The owner was a rancher who towed cattle trailers across 3 states every month. He had never opened the engine. Oil changes every 6,000 miles, fuel filters every 12,000 miles, and transmission service every 100,000 miles. That was it. The Common Rail 5.9 does not have a timing belt or chain to replace. It uses gear-driven timing that will last the life of the engine. The fuel system is a Bosch CP3 injection pump, which is far more reliable than the CP4 pumps that gave later trucks problems. The inline 6-cylinder design creates less vibration and fewer stress points than a V8 diesel, which is one reason these engines last so long. The weakness on these trucks is not the engine, it is the transmission. The 48R 4-speed automatic was adequate, but not outstanding. If you find one with the 6-speed manual, buy it immediately. If it is an automatic, check the transmission fluid for a burnt smell and a dark color. A rebuilt 48RE runs about $3,000 to $4,000, which is real money. The engine underneath will outlive whatever transmission you bolt to it. Current prices for a 2006 Ram 2500 with the 5.9 Cummins and 150,000 miles run $18,000 to $25,000. These trucks hold their value precisely because word has gotten out about how long they last. Number 3. From 2006 to 2007, Chevy and GMC 2500 HD and 3500 trucks equipped with the Duramax LBZ. If you ask any Duramax mechanic which engine is the best, 9 out of 10 will say LBZ without hesitating. The 2006 to 2007 LBZ is widely considered the most reliable Duramax ever built, and there are good reasons for that. General Motors completely redesigned the internals for 2006. The block received additional reinforcement in the main bearing areas, with deeper bolt holes and extra webbing. The connecting rods were beefed up from the previous LLY. The result was 360 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque from a 6.6-liter V8 that could handle serious abuse. Here is the critical detail. The LBZ was the last Duramax built without a diesel particulate filter. That means no regeneration cycles dumping fuel into your oil and no diesel exhaust fluid to worry about. Just a clean, powerful diesel that does what it is told. Many owners call it bulletproof. The LBZ was paired with the 6-speed Allison 1000 automatic, which is one of the most respected transmissions in the diesel world. Smooth shifting, massive torque capacity, and a track record for lasting well past 300,000 miles. Owners on diesel forums regularly report LBZ trucks exceeding 400,000 miles with nothing more than routine maintenance. The only real weakness is the water pump. The plastic impeller can break apart on higher mileage examples, typically between 100,000 and 150,000 miles. That is a $400 to $600 repair. The transmission cooler lines can also develop a slow drip from a poor factory crimp, but that is a couple $100 to fix permanently with aftermarket stainless steel lines. The problem with buying an LBZ is that everyone knows they are great. Clean examples command serious premiums, often $25,000 to $35,000 for a truck with 150,000 miles. But when you consider that the engine will likely go another 250,000 miles without major work, the cost per mile is hard to beat. If you are inspecting one, check the frame for rust, especially if the truck spent time in the salt belt. Look at the bedsides, rocker panels, and cab corners. The engine will outlast the body if rust is not addressed. Number 2. From 1994 to 1998, the Dodge Ram 2500 with the 5.9-liter 12-valve Cummins. This is the diesel mechanics talk about when the shop gets quiet. The 12-valve 5.9 Cummins is as close to unkillable as any diesel truck ever made. The reason is almost absurd in its simplicity. There is nothing on it to break. The 12-valve Cummins is a fully mechanical engine with no computer-controlled injection, no electronic throttle, and no emissions equipment. The fuel system is a Bosch P7100 inline injection pump that is fed clean diesel and runs flawlessly for decades. Timing is gear-driven, all steel, no belts, no chains, no plastic guides. The block is cast iron. The head is cast iron. The internals are so overbuilt that the engine was originally designed for industrial and agricultural equipment where failure is not an option. I worked on a 1996 Ram 2500 a few years ago that had 487,000 miles on the original engine. It had never been apart. The owner was a farmer who used it to pull grain trailers 6 months out of the year and plow snow the other 6 months. He changed the oil when he remembered, which was not often enough, and the truck did not care. It just ran. Factory power was modest, about 160 to 215 horsepower, depending on the year. But the torque, up to 440 pound-feet, is what matters in a work truck, and the aftermarket support for the 12-valve is enormous. Simple modifications can push these engines well past 300 horsepower while maintaining the same legendary reliability. The downside is comfort. These are 25 to 30-year-old trucks. The interiors are basic, and the ride is rough. The automatic transmission, the 47RE, is the weak link and may need a rebuild, typically $2,500 to $4,000. But the engine itself will outlast everything around it. Prices on clean 12-valve trucks have climbed significantly. A well-maintained example with 150,000 to 200,000 miles can sell for $15,000 to $28,000. Even at those prices, you are buying an engine that could run another 300,000 miles. If you find one, check the killer dowel pin. It is a small alignment dowel between the engine block and the transmission bell housing. That dowel can vibrate loose and drop into the timing gears, destroying the front of the engine. The fix is a $30 retaining tab installed preventively. Ask the seller if it has been done. If they do not know what you are talking about, that is your negotiating leverage. Number 1. From 1999 to 2003, Ford Super Duty with a 7.3-liter Power Stroke. This is the truck I recommend more than any other diesel to people who want to buy one truck and drive it for the rest of their lives. And almost nobody argues with me because the 7.3 Power Stroke has earned its reputation the hard way, 1 million-mile truck at a time. A customer brought in a 2002 F-350 dually with 578,000 miles on it. Original engine, original turbo. He had been pulling a 14,000-pound enclosed trailer across the country, doing trade shows for 19 years. I put it on the lift expecting to find a truck hanging on by a thread. What I found was a diesel that still had strong compression, clean oil pressure, and a turbo that spooled like it was new. He had changed the oil every 5,000 miles without exception and replaced the fuel filters every 10,000. That was his entire maintenance philosophy, and it worked. Here is why the 7.3 is the king. The engine is a direct injection V8 with an HEUI fuel system, meaning it uses high-pressure engine oil to fire the fuel injectors. It sounds complicated, but the system is remarkably simple compared to common rail injection. There is no high-pressure fuel pump to grenade and contaminate the system. The block is cast iron and massively overbuilt. There are no emissions devices to clog, fail, or regenerate. No DPF, no EGR, no DEF. The turbo is a simple fixed geometry unit with no variable vanes to stick. The 7.3 was offered with a 5-speed automatic and a 6-speed manual. Both are dependable long-term, though the automatic benefits from regular fluid changes and an aftermarket deep pan for better cooling. Factory numbers were conservative, about 275 horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque. But conservative is the point. Ford left so much headroom in the design that the engine never works hard at stock power levels. It is loafing, which is exactly why it lasts so long. Repair costs are laughably low compared to newer diesels. Injectors, if they ever need replacement, run $1,200 to $1,800 for all 8, including labor. A turbo rebuild is $600 to $900. An ICP sensor, the most common failure point, costs $45 and takes 10 minutes to swap in a parking lot. Compare that to a CP4 fuel pump failure on a newer truck, which costs $10,000, and the math becomes very clear. When you are shopping for a 7.3, here is my inspection list. First, check for oil leaks around the turbo pedestal and the rear main seal. Minor seepage is normal on a high-mileage truck. Active dripping needs to be addressed. Second, pull the oil fill cap while the engine is running. A small amount of blow-by vapor is normal. If it is pushing hard enough to lift the cap off, the rings are worn. Third, check the camshaft position sensor, CPS. A failing CPS causes random stalling and no start conditions. It is a $25 part, but it tells you how the seller maintains the truck. Fourth, look for rust on the frame, especially behind the rear wheels. The engine will last forever. The frame might not. A 2001 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 with 180,000 miles will run from $16,000 to $24,000. A clean low-mileage example can push past $30,000. People are paying these prices because they know something the new truck market does not want you to hear. A properly maintained 7.3 Power Stroke bought today for $20,000 will still be running strong in 2040. Try saying that about a $75,000 new truck loaded with systems designed to fail outside of warranty. Who should buy it? Anyone who tows regularly and wants to stop worrying. Anyone who does their own maintenance and wants an engine they can work on without a factory scan tool. Anyone who values simplicity over touchscreens. Who should skip it? If you need modern creature comforts, the 7.3 era trucks do not have them. If you need to tow 30,000 pounds, the newer trucks are more capable. And if you care about fuel economy, expect 14 to 18 miles per gallon. So there it is, 5 diesel trucks that will run until the wheels fall off, and 3 that will have you calling a tow truck before the odometer hits 6 figures. The 7.3 Power Stroke that refuses to die. The 12-valve Cummins that mechanics worship. The Duramax LBZ that GM accidentally made perfect. The Common Rail 5.9 that hauls cattle trailers to the moon and back. And the second-generation 6.7 Power Stroke that proved Ford finally learned from its mistakes. You also know which 3 to avoid. The Nissan that wore a Cummins badge it did not earn. The 6.4 that Ford pretends never happened. And the 6.0 that turned bulletproof into a repair category. If this kind of straight talk saves you from a bad purchase, hit subscribe. I have got more videos coming, breaking down exactly what to look for before you hand anyone money for a used diesel, like if it helped. Drive safe, take care of your truck, and it will take care of you. I will see you in the next one.